there were these moments when I was playing Outer Wilds where I was like having a conversation with an NPC or reading a piece of text as the sun was exploding. And I was like, no.
Yeah, I definitely had those as well.
You hear that little kind of fusey sound and then the boom, and you're like, oh no!
No.
Ahem. Thank you for listening to Games by Design, our podcast where we share our experiences with video games and discuss what is awesome or not awesome. I'm Nick Dunlap and I'm your host for this episode. I'm joined today by my brother, Zach.
Hey.
And Aaron Bone.
Hello!
This is our monthly game highlight episode where we focus our... I said that like the highlight is that we're focusing on games. This is our monthly game highlight episode. We talk about games every week, where we focus our discussion around a single game that we've all been playing and we reflect on our experiences. Today we'll be talking about Outer Wilds, the space exploration adventure game by Mobius Digital. We'll each take a turn sharing thoughts and posing discussion questions. But first, our Get to Know You segment.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Each of us is going to answer
Ask me
a
about
random...
the female of the species again.
Yeah. Each of us is going to answer a random question, get to know you from the interwebs. So here we go. We're going to start this time with Zach.
Hey.
Your question is thus. What's the difference between justice and revenge?
Justice and revenge.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think I'm not qualified to enact either one is my answer to that. So there's how they're not different. As for how they are different, one is when you're the good guy in a movie, and one is when you're the bad guy in a movie. And that's all I got.
That's fair.
It's all from a certain point of view.
See, what you call revenge, I just call justice. Okay. Well, great. Are you satisfied with that question?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Aaron, we got a question for you. I think.
All right, shoot.
What job would you be terrible at?
Probably a shorter list of jobs I wouldn't be terrible at. So me and numbers don't get along, and I don't really care much about money or finances. So probably an accountant.
Or any job that pays you, maybe?
Bad combination.
Anything.
That's right, life is free.
Yeah, for you.
Yeah. You higher being. All right.
No, but yeah, me and math don't get along. And so I've often thought about if I was like a CPA or something, handling other people's finances through the competency of my mathematical skills. That would be a bad combination, and nobody would be happy. So we'll go with that.
Alrighty. An accountant or anything that pays you. With Zach's edition. Alright. Okay, question for myself.
I'm good at jobs that pay me, you know?
Yeah, it's managing other people's money that's scary.
It's yeah.
Alright, well, a question for me.
Give yourself a hard one.
What could you give a 2-hour impromptu lecture on? Oh, I have to answer this.
That is your question.
An impromptu lecture. Oh gosh. I want to... Not this.
You couldn't give a 2-hour impromptu lecture about a 2-hour impromptu lecture.
No, maybe
or
I
what
could
you give a 2-hour impromptu lecture.
I mindlessly philosophize for 2 hours pretty easily. Actually, now that I think of it, so let's go with that. Like circular reasoning and philosophy. I could do that for
So-
4 or 5 hours at least.
So you could talk about Justice and Revenge for 2 hours.
Oh yeah.
That Zach couldn't talk about for 2 minutes.
I feel like I said what needed to be said. I'll tell you what. One starts with a J, one starts with a V.
Revenge.
Here are the letters they have in
I
common.
thought you said vengeance.
Oh, you're right.
Or revengeance, maybe. Let's move on.
Vengeance,
All right.
but doing it again.
Oh,
Could give some
Okay,
video
well.
games examples, right?
yeah. Yeah, we could. Yeah.
If you're the good guy or the bad guy.
Well, that concludes that. Now, it is time,
Nice.
my friends, to talk about space travel, imploding planets, and exploding suns.
Oh gosh.
With a good helping of freaky
yes.
anglerfish. Let's talk about Outer
Those
Wilds.
anglerfish.
All right.
Aaron, would you like to start us off?
Sure. So,
Great. Do it.
Outer Wilds is primarily a game about exploration, about, going somewhere you haven't been before or someplace you have been and trying to see something you didn't see before and seeing how it all connects together. Now, Outer Wilds makes this interesting by, as you suggested, having the sun explode every 22 minutes, meaning that you really have to condense and speed up your exploration. So I really just kind of wanted to pose a question about how this time loop idea, and not even the sun exploding, every planet you go to kind of has its own hostile ticking clock on it, whether it's the sand falling on the hourglass twins or the planet getting sucked into the black hole, on Brittle Hollow. I guess just a lot of exploration games are kind of about taking your time and taking it all in and, doing things at your own pace. And so in this game where you're kind of on the clock and things want to kill you often and you're still to explore and take advantage of your time, how does that kind of gameplay help with the exploration and how does it hinder it?
That's a good question.
Well, one thing that comes to my mind is that when I have this kind of ticking time clock, it limits my options, actually, because at any given point in time, I can only go and do a certain number of things. I can't explore Ember Twin, for instance, late in the cycle. So if I run out of things to do and it's late in the cycle, and that means that, like, if I wanted to get to... My options are limited because, if I want to explore Brittle Hollow and Brittle Hollow has all been sucked into a black hole, or I want to explore Ember Twin and Ember Twin is full of sand, those options are out, which in a way helps it to be a little less overwhelming sometimes when I'm trying to decide what to do next, because I'm like, okay, well, what can I do? I know I can't go there and I know I can't go there, so what's the rest of my options? So in a world that is open... Sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, at those points, the sun's about to explode anyway, so you don't really have much time.
Yeah, that's true. But also, like, if I'm... Yeah, but like also if I'm about to start and I want to go to like Ash Twin, or I want to go to, somewhere else that I can't go anywhere at any time. And so not being able to go anywhere at any time means that I don't tend to be overwhelmed by choices generally. Which is kind of nice, because in some games that are really big where you can do literally anything at any moment, I think sometimes I get a little bit overwhelmed at just the sheer breadth of options. And so, granted, sometimes you can't do what you want to do, but for me, I found that often it was easy to make a decision quickly, because it was like, well, I can't do that and I can't do that, so I better do this.
That is so interesting. If you're finished, I'm gonna do that thing again that I usually do, where I'm like, but is it like real life? And I think, that actually, this is a really cool example of So here's the way I see it. It's very open.
Mm-hmm.
The game is very open. It lets you go anywhere and do kind of, whatever you want, within a certain boundaries. But like, and you said that like the time limit thing limits your options, but it doesn't necessarily limit your options in the way that it takes away things from you to do.
Yeah.
It says you can't do these things. It just says you are, your time is limited, and so you have to prioritize.
Yeah.
And so what ends up happening is that you still, as a player, are making choices about what you want to do, but it helps you to like focus in and say, okay, like what is the most important thing I need to do right now? And then you go do that, which I like, because like you said, it makes it easier to make choices, because it's like, okay, I don't have time to do everything. And I like this as well, because it's kind of like a real life thing where it's like, all of us, when we come onto this planet, have a ticking clock. We don't know how long it's got or whatever, but like at some point, it's going to be over, and the sun's not going to blow up, but we're,
as far as we know,
yeah,
they didn't think it was in Outer Wilds either. So,
maybe the sun won't blow up, but eventually we all are going to move on and not have. We're going to die, and we're not going to be able to have done everything that we may have wanted to do in this life. So I kind of like that. And that's kind of something that makes me prioritize things in my life, and something that in this game has the same effect, is that like, it doesn't say all these things are off limits to you. It just says you can do whatever you want, but bear in mind, you only have 22 minutes.
Yeah.
And so you say, okay, and then you pick the most important thing, and then you go for it.
I found that I tended to chase my burning questions first in Outer Wilds.
Yeah.
And I think that's a pretty clever, I don't know, design is it causes you to chase what is most interesting to you, what you want answered the most, because you can't, like, if you're just wasting time, goofing around, you will, the sun's going to explode and you're going to have to start all over again.
Right.
So like I would wake up, at the beginning of the time loop, and I would just dash to my spaceship, because I knew I had to get to Ember Twin so I could get in those caves and find out what was down there.
Yeah.
Or something like that. It makes you prioritize. And it also lends a sense of urgency almost to like your curiosity, which are two things that I don't think, like, if I'm discovering stuff and exploring, it's not usually urgent. But in Outer Wilds, there's this kind of, with the ticking clock, there's a sense of tension even when you're just goofing around and exploring.
Yeah.
There's something about it too that it kind of allows you to be risky when you need to be risky, and to like be safe when you need to be safe.
Yeah.
Like if you know that, okay, you've got a couple of minutes, the sun's going to explode, but you want to see what happens if you jump down this black hole, It's like, okay, well, I can do that. Where at the same time, if it's like, okay, I know that I need to get into this like intricate underground system before it fills with sand and I get crushed to death. So I'm going to try to be really careful that I don't accidentally go into the sun when I'm trying to land on this planet.
Yeah.
And there's something too about how the fact that this time loop is canon within the game, that your character is experiencing dying again and again. There's kind of this this inherent recklessness that you kind of feel as well, like as the character, as the explorer doing this thing. And it's just like, well, this might kill me, but what else is new? Let's try it.
Yeah.
You get the whole Groundhog Day thing where he's just doing these ridiculous things.
Yeah.
I thought that was really interesting, and I like that too. I like realizing that, like, without incentivizing you with rewards or punishments or anything like that, or trying to control you or make you do things, the game encourages you very naturally to set priorities and make goals and then go do stuff. I mean, it doesn't even spell out exactly what it wants you to do. You just go out there and then you do it, and because it's so natural. I think it's actually really incredible that this game managed to do that. Basically, it was awesome. Yeah, it was cool. Really liked it.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, and the way that it gives you the information that you don't know, one, where everything is that you're, kind of exploring, how to get there, the information that you find, there's certain things that kind of involve, tricks to get to. And so oftentimes we get to things like, okay, well, what do I know how to do? Where do I know how to get to? And it's like, I'm going to go do that thing. And then, usually in the process where it's like, okay, I've been struggling. I have no idea what to do here. I go do the thing that I know. And in that process or in another process, find a hint, find a clue, find a thing that relates to this other thing I've been struggling with. And it's like, oh, now I can do this. And those moments of the game were really cool. Like, I don't want to spoil anything because I don't know how, much everything's been done. But there's like, I don't know, this certain point where it's like, there's this information I need to find in this seemingly inaccessible area. And as much as I try, I cannot get to this area at all. And so, but then I'm exploring some completely other, tangent thing. And in this other place, there's like a little message that's like, oh, by the way, I found this thing that helped you get to this really inaccessible area. And it's like, what? And then you get down there, and then there's like another puzzle of how to like get deeper into this area that was tied to this other, almost what felt like a side quest thing, that you were doing. And the way that information and the things that you take from each area that you go to and how it fits together like a puzzle is really satisfying.
Yeah. I loved the accidental discoveries that I made during that game. I loved stumbling upon stuff that I wasn't looking for and connecting it somewhere else. I really love, because that would frequently happen. I'd be somewhere and I'd accidentally do something. Like, my ship would explode and I'd end up somewhere I didn't mean to end up. Or, I'd accidentally fall into a black hole and all of a sudden there's something on the other side of the black hole.
Yeah.
Or like, and I loved I never knew what to expect. And I really appreciated that.
Yeah, that's cool. Aaron, you were talking about the time loop thing and maybe what some of its, you said what was its strengths and weaknesses that it had, or the...
Yeah, just kind of, with this time loop, with the hostility, with these, that limitation of what you can explore. I think we've talked about the ways in which that enriches the exploration. But also curious about, maybe... does it present problems,
Gotcha.
for that feeling of exploration and adventure? I don't know. Did you guys ever feel anything like that, or was it all positive?
Well, I definitely had some frustrations when I'd miss a window, and I think that's kind of unavoidable. That. And so, like, I'm not saying that's a good thing, that it's unavoidable. But like, there were times where I'd be like, oh, I just missed it. Now I have to wait for the next time loop. Or there's very specific windows to do a number of things. And it's like, well, if you miss that single moment, you've got to wait another 20 minutes. You got to start all over. Now, the game does give you little things, like it lets you speed up time and in certain instances and gives you a couple workarounds. But like, but I still had those frustrations from time to time. There's a lot of waiting.
There is a lot of waiting.
Yeah.
Which is not my favorite kind of gameplay.
Yeah,
but that's not necessarily because there's a deadline. It's more because it's the rotating platform thing when you're doing when you're doing jumping puzzles in other video games. You got to wait for the thing to come back around. It's that kind of a thing. I think that the deadline was actually. I don't think the deadline itself was the problem. I think the problem was that certain things were time triggered and you had to wait for them to trigger.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting how I would find myself like planning out a route. Be like, okay, well, I know this happens at this time and this happens at this time. So I'm going to hit this spot and then this spot and this spot and then make sure I'm in at that point by the time that thing happens. Or I'd be like, So I'd find myself like planning out my loop, planning out my Groundhog Day, as it were, to make sure I was in the right spot for a bunch of different things, which was a lot of fun. Planning out the perfect day, basically trying to get everything done, and trying to get as much accomplished as possible. Presented its own challenge, but also it had, those frustrations where if you do it wrong, you gotta wait.
It's so hazardous. So it's like, okay, I need to get to these really delicate areas that I have to, walk upside down in Brittle Hollow, at this right time before it's collapsed into the black hole. And it's like, oh, I finally get there and overshot the jetpack, and now I'm falling in the black hole. And now, you missed a chance. And I think earlier in the game when you have so much to explore, it's less of a frustration. I think it's when it's later in the game and you kind of have I just need to wrap up these few, things, or before I can do this, I need to figure out what's here. And when you just kind of have this one main thing that you need to do, or, maybe two main things, and you keep missing that window to do it. Like, Zach, I don't know. Did you ever do the lake bed caves on Ember Twin?
Is that
you go underground and you have to...
The lake bed cave with the bit with the rock that disappears and stuff?
Yeah, there's a rock that disappears, but basically you have to get there within the first couple of minutes, like before sand even starts pouring. Yeah. You have to wind your way through these caves and then these disappearing rocks that guide past. Anyway, it's kind of a complex, slightly obtuse puzzle to get to where you need to go. Yeah. And you have such a tiny window to get there.
Yeah.
That in moments like that, it was frustrating. Or you get to an area and you discover all this lore and you get into it. And you're like, oh, wow, this is really cool. And you want to read every little blurb and, get to it. And I mean, there were some points in the game, like I really wanted to see, all the little Nomai script, all the ancient alien stuff. But then I was like, okay, but I know I have to get to this place next, so I'm just going to get the gist of it and, read it back through on my ship log. And, you miss some of that flavor text a little bit.
Yeah, that's a really good point, yeah.
Which is a game, because, you have those other games, as I kind of said, with exploration, where it's like, oh, they want you to read everything and explore everything. But... when you're fighting against all these hazards of your planet imploding, the sun exploding, getting eaten by some space creature, it's like you gotta kind of speed through it, and that's not always, how you want to receive that lore or to see all this background. Because I thought the background, the story was fascinating. Yeah. And the way that it unfolded and everything connected together was just, wow, this is amazing. This civilization. It reminded me of Horizon Zero Dawn, where you're seeing all these audio logs and things about this old civilization that was kind of on the brink of ruin and all the discoveries they were making. But then you're at the brink of ruin as well. So you're... It's unique, but there were... Like I said, there were a few moments where I was just like, I need to figure out a shortcut how to do this because I can't do it. And so, I'd get like a little wiki thing. It's like, okay, that's helps. But
which we talked about in our last episode.
Yeah.
See that one for a discussion on using the wiki.
Yeah.
It was kind of, there were these moments when I was playing Outer Wilds where I was like having a conversation with an NPC or reading a piece of text as the sun was exploding. And I was like, no.
Yeah, I definitely had those as well.
You hear that little kind of fusey sound and then the boom, and you're like, oh no.
No. How long do I have before the shockwave hits me?
I know, yeah. You're counting seconds like as the supernova is spreading across the solar system.
Yeah.
Well, you see, are you on the sun station or are you on the giant steep,
That makes a difference.
Yeah, if you're at the White Hole Station or whatever, it's like, well, I'm okay. I can sit here for a while.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
I think I saw like you can technically outrun the supernova, but you still reset. So
yeah, I think I was once. So far, I did not see it explode. just because that's the way that game goes. I was just so far out in space. I think I was just looking at, what's that over there? And it wasn't anything. It was just endless space. But I
want to, if you guys don't mind, I want to, for the last little bit that we have this topic, bring up the meditate feature.
Oh, yeah.
Which I actually really liked.
Mm-hmm.
Because before I discovered it's the ability that you have to end the time loop early and go back to the beginning of it.
Yeah.
I didn't have that at first, and at one point I was flying my spaceship trying to land on something outside of Giant's Deep, and I damaged my spaceship, and I got out to try to fix it or whatever, and it exploded, and it jettisoned me into deep space, and I was going so fast that the solar system just disappeared, and I'm without my spaceship, without anything. It's just me floating through the void, and it was relatively close to the beginning of the time loop. So I had to sit in the void for the better part of 20 minutes. Because I didn't have the ability to reset it or anything like that.
I had a similar experience where I was on the Comet, the Interloper, one time, and I walked away from my spaceship, and I walked back, and the gravity of the sun had pulled my spaceship off the Comet, and I just sat there until my oxygen ran out. Sorry.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I a few times did the quit game, reset the time loop, and go back into it.
Yeah. I didn't even think of doing that. It just, I don't know. But I like the meditation feature because it allows you to it gives you a little more control over the time loop.
Yeah.
But I didn't have it for a while. Yeah, and it doesn't tell you that it's in the game at all.
Yeah, you have to find a specific location with a specific thing. Yeah.
Which is kind of like, I mean, I don't know. Unlike you guys, I haven't finished the game. So I don't actually know if there's any other upgrades in the game, but as far as I can tell, that is the only character skill upgrade thing. That it's the only one I've encountered.
I'm
pretty
sure it's the only one.
Is it the only one?
What's the meditation mechanic? Did I miss that?
if you talk to Gabbro, he's the guy on Giant's Deep playing.
Yeah.
Kazoo. It's not a kazoo. He's sitting on his hammock. If you chat with him, he'll teach you how to meditate, so that you can end the time loop early.
I swear I chatted with him. Maybe I didn't.
You got to chat with him a couple times.
Okay.
Yeah, you got to do it.
That's really crazy.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Oh, man.
That means you played the whole game without it.
That's... yeah, so yeah, I just used the quit game, get back into it.
Oh, man.
Oh, wow.
Man. Hey, this reminds me of last episode.
That was one of my issues with the game. I was like, I wish you could reset the loop. I needed to. And there's this mechanic because I noticed another frustration I kind of had was that sometimes I wish there was a bit more variety in what the NPCs, said to you, or that they would react. But then most of the time they wouldn't because they're not aware things are going. But Gabbro is aware of the time loop, so that makes sense that he would. Oh man.
Yeah. It also, you're right.
Yeah, I was gonna say this reminds me of our last episode, Aaron, where you were talking about you liked the discovery that you had in Breath of the Wild, by just figuring things out and stuff like that. But there was stuff in that game that you did not know about until you had finished the game and were watching somebody else play it, and therefore didn't have the opportunity to actually use those things in the thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we really have time to get into a big discussion on that subject again, but the last episode talks about that a little bit, and then maybe that's something that we should chat about again in the future, because it's coming up a few times now.
Yeah, let's definitely revisit that.
No, but this is because this game, since there's so little interaction with NPCs, anytime you meet one, you want to exhaust all of the dialogue options. So I'm kind of boggling my mind how I missed that.
That cracks me up.
Yeah, that's really...
Because I would come back, and they encourage you to do it, too, because you have the whole... What did I learn thing?
Yeah, you can share your information with them.
You can go back. It's like, I found the vessel, or I went to the quantum moon, and they're like, that's awesome, dude, and they can react to it, and that's funny.
That's really
funny.
Wow.
Well,
I won't fault the game for that. I think that's fine, and that's kind of a cool. And by the time you meet him, it's, I don't know, maybe depending how you play midway through the game, so you can. Yeah. I mean, I guess you could go straight there and run into him, but.
Yeah, you've got options. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
So no, that's a cool that the game has a mechanic, and it's funny that I didn't see that.
It's really funny. Well, thank you, Aaron. Thank you for your questions and your thoughts. We're gonna move on to the next portion. I have some thoughts that I would like to pose to you. Both.
Pose them.
Pose them. Here I go. I'm gonna pose. I'm gonna be a poser. Okay. So, Andrew Pralo. I do not know how to say his name, but he is the composer for Outer Wilds, and I think he created a phenomenal soundtrack. I love the music in this game.
Oh yeah.
And I think the way the game uses the soundtrack is especially cool. For instance, using your sci-fi signal scope device to find different travelers by following their different musical instruments, or the super ominous yet beautiful music that cues you that the sun is about to explode.
I love that.
So let's talk a little bit about music, which is something we haven't done a ton on this podcast before, but I would love to know how your experience with the music in this game, what was your experience with the music, and how did it affect you during the play experience?
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of sparse. Like, it's not non-existent, but and you have both diegetic and non-diegetic music. But for the most part, I feel like I'm just in space, cruising in space, which is quiet. You know, pretty quiet in space, and I think that helped to sell the whole vibe of being in space.
Yeah. And what music there is in space is kind of this mellow kind of you know, just kind of like it's really chill and it's non-obtrusive when it is there.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I love how the music kind of cues you into the hazards in the game.
It does.
Like, I thought the music in Dark Bramble was really spooky and ominous.
Listening to that music gives me anxiety. That's so stressful.
and it's very stressful because you're dealing with the anglerfish and you know, getting lost, and I just remember like being there. It's like, this was not the type of game I thought I was going to be playing when I started this game. Because you think of when you start on Timber Hearth and everyone's chill, they're rocking back in their rocking chairs. You just kind of get up there. You have your chill space music. You know, you land on like nearby moons. Everything's chill.
And
then
so
you go
homey,
to a place like Dark Bramble, and it's like, this is a scary game.
This is one of the scariest games I've ever played.
This is really intense. Like, so being able to see that distinction in the music, or like when you would do the projection stones, and you get the weird ethereal kind of whining alien noise, and you see kind of what's going on, and it's like, whoa, this is like crazy, and you get the sense of just the weird alien technology. I thought it was super effective.
I think I really like the distinction between the different zones. Like when you're on Timber Hearth, when you're at home, there's this really like homey, folky almost. You got like banjos and guitars and drums and things like that. It's this really like homey, comfortable, cozy kind of a music. And then when you get out into space, you know, it's like we talked about, it's more sparse. And on Dark Bramble, it's terrifying. But I love when you're exploring like the ruins and stuff. There's this music that kicks in that you know, it does this clever thing where music kicks in, and that's how you know that there's something to find here. Like you hear the No My music, and you're like, oh, there's something I need to find here, or there's something I can read here, or there's some mystery to uncover here. And it's totally alien sounding. It's completely different instrumentation. It's completely different type of music to everything you've been listening to so far.
That's interesting.
But I think it's interesting that the music sometimes will cue you in to say, hey, there's something here. Maybe you should look around. I thought that was interesting because that is that's coming from outside of the game. That's the game telling you, hey, pay attention. It's not something in the game.
I'm not sure I even really picked up on that. Again,
I don't think I did either. Yeah.
Like I noticed the music that would come in the ruins, but I don't think I made the connection about like when it was an area I hadn't explored yet or a thing to find. That's
Yeah, I think it's just like it kind of it just accompanies the mysterious zones. Like there is information here, even if you've like already been there. But it's like yeah. I just thought it was
no. As you're saying that, I think I noticed that, but I didn't make the connection in a way that I could use that.
That's fair.
There would be times I'm exploring the same ruins and tunnels again and again to see where that there's more to see here thing is, hiding from me. That's really clever. That's good.
Yeah. But yeah. Were there any other experiences you guys had
with the music?
With the music specifically, or how it interacted?
I mean, I just have to say, spoiler free. I know Zach hasn't finished the game, but the way the music plays into the ending of the game, I thought was phenomenal. Mm-hmm. And just even like leading up to it, how there's kind of a shift, and you're just like, oh man, we're in the end game now. Like this is okay. Yeah.
The music really sells you on what is happening, and it changes. It changes depending on the mood of the game, and it really fits, I think. And I agree with you. I love the way the music plays into the final act of the final parts of the game and everything leading up to the conclusion.
Yeah.
I just think it's exceptional.
It's so good. Mm-hmm. And then like every time I started up the game, I just had this really warm, fuzzy feeling because of the music. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, oh, yeah, I'm excited to do this. This is good. I'm happy to be back in this game listening to this music. It's just so good. Yeah. And which is, but this is good. Yeah. And I love that it picks up. It's interesting that it happens just as you leave the planet every time. I find that interesting. Like as you're setting out on your journey, each loop or whatever, you hear the theme again, and then you go out, and then it becomes sparse. But you hear it for a few moments before that
like
happens.
When the sun rises on Timber Hearth, that's when the music kicks in and stuff, and that usually is right as you're leaving and stuff.
Oh yeah, is that when it happens?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, I guess that's why I thought it was when I was leaving, because I always get out of there as fast as possible. That's so interesting.
Yeah,
man.
But
yeah. And that signal scope is such a you touched on this, Nick. It's such a clever way to find things or to kind of act as your compass in the game. There were moments where I was kind of lost and figuring out where to do, and it's like, oh wait, I remember I found this signal back here, and I can just like turn it on, and oh, there we go, and I find it. Or seeing your buddies throughout the galaxy and hearing their different variations of the theme on their instrument, and kind of trying to play hide and seek with them, figure out where they're at.
I love that. I love that they're all distinct and that you can figure out what you're closest to. It's a really clever compass in a game that you need help navigating. I think it's a really, really clever compass. And it also is cool for some puzzles and stuff like that too. I just think it plays into all of that really well. Something I loved the game's music so much. I would frequently seek out a character and sit down next to them at their campfire and roast marshmallows until the end of the time loop sometimes. This is kind of jumping back to that conversation we had. It's like, when do you role play when it's totally unnecessary? This is something I found myself doing in this game, and I think a lot of it was because I liked the music so much. But I've got a few minutes left on my time loop. I'll go find my favorite traveler. I'll sit with them, I'll roast marshmallows, and I'll just listen to their music and wait for the sun to explode.
That's great. I noticed, I don't know if this was the same with all the NPCs, but I think it was Chert, the guy with the drums on the Ember Twin. I was talking with him when the sun's about to supernova, and he's totally freaking out.
Really?
Instead of just his normal conversation of, oh, hey, how's it going? What have you seen here? Oh, the nomads sure were weird. He's like, are you noticing the sun right now? This is the end. This is it. And then he just kind of goes and is like, well, I guess we're in this together. I guess I'll just play my drums. It was a cool moment really cool. Where his his dialogue adjusted to the time in the loop.
That's fun, and that's fun and distinct for him too, because he's the guy who's watching. He's the guy who's watching for that kind of stuff. He's the guy who's like the scientist among them who's like watching for the stars and stuff like that. That's really cool. I like that.
Yeah. He makes comments earlier. He's like, they thought the sun was going to explode. I haven't noticed anything about that. And you talk to him when the sun's about to explode.
He notices.
he notices.
Man. Well, awesome. I don't know how to really have anything else there. I just really love the music in this game.
It's so good.
Segment might be a little shorter, but you good if we move on to you, Zach?
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome. Thanks for your thoughts, guys.
You bet. Alrighty. So me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You.
All right, so for my segment today, I wanted to review some of the game design principles that we've kind of extracted from the previous 11 episodes that we've done. Mm-hmm. Both the ones that have appeared for the audience and those that have been lost to the ages. And
podcast apocrypha.
Podcast apocrypha, yeah. And I wanted to see how some of those principles that we've talked about and kind of identified over the course of our previous conversations play into and are how this game interacts with those, and whether we feel like they work here or whether we feel like maybe we were wrong about them, or I don't know. I want to talk about how these principles in this game interact.
Yeah.
So here we go. So the first one is we talk a lot about choices and consequences. Mm-hmm. So we've discussed on numerous occasions how much we like having the freedom to choose what we do, but we also really like experiencing natural, believable consequences for our actions. Mm-hmm. So I got two questions. Number one, did you guys feel like you had freedom to choose what you did in this game?
I'm going to say yes, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
So what was it that made it feel open and free? Because it didn't let you go out around and murder everybody like Grand Theft Auto might do. So
that's true.
You know, like,
no,
why did it feel
instead
free?
The world is murdering you, and
yeah. I mean, the game was very.
You choose how you want to die.
Yeah, you choose how you want. I mean, honestly, half this game is just choosing how you want to die, again and again. The game from the get-go is very straightforward about this experience it's presenting. So I know I wasn't expecting to make choices like, I'm going to, push this guy out of his rocking chair and beat him with it. I didn't go into the game thinking I could do that. The game didn't tell me I could do that. The game didn't lead me to believe in any way that I should have been able to do that. So I don't know. I knew what experience I was going to get going in, more or less.
So what did make it feel free and open, and that you could do anything you wanted to do?
Well, it didn't tell me what to do, for one thing.
Yeah, I think you have this map. You have these, the beginning of the game, just these empty question marks, I guess, or nothing. Mm-hmm. I don't even remember what the log looks like at the beginning of the game.
I don't remember either.
you just fill it in, because it's like, no, I don't think you get a question mark till you hear about it. So, you can just, kind of what you talked about, Nick. You choose how to fill your day. There's nothing that's pressuring you to do. Like, if you want, you could just roast marshmallows with your buddy on Timber Hearth until the sun explodes.
I did that so many times.
Or a really cool moment I had was when, this became second nature later in the game, but the first time I was like, I could just get my spacesuit from my ship and explore this planet and see what, fun stuff it is. And it's like, oh, I could just jump down this geyser. That's really cool, see all this stuff that's, involved there. And it's constantly kind of changing your perspective of kind of what you can do. And I think it's interesting too that I guess kind of maybe the further outside Timber Hearth you get, or, we've talked about how the game kind of starts off chill, but things get more intense going on. When you're in space, it's a very hostile environment. There's a lot of violence in the universe, but, you are not a violent person. Yeah. There's never any point in the game where, you have to attack anything, or you're even given the capability.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
boy, I wish I had a machete that I could cut down those bushes, you know, at some point. But no, you're just experiencing, you have to survive in this extremely violent, hostile world, but, you know, it's not like Grand Theft Auto or, you know, the other games where then you respond with violence. And so, you know, which, you know, may seem like it's limiting, but I don't know. It just kind of, it keeps that feeling of exploration, which I think ties into that free feeling of what you can do.
I think I agree with you entirely, Aaron. I think for me, while I can't do anything in this game, the game itself feels really solidly internally consistent. Like, at no point is it telling me one thing but doing another. It never lies to me. The rules here apply anywhere else. Yeah. Any rule that I learned here applies anywhere else. And so that gives me a sense of, like, really coming to understand. Well, it gives me a sense of control over my environment, because I know that whatever I do, I mean, it's a simulation. Like, the galaxy is simulated. The gravity is simulated. Yeah. Like, so whatever you do, if I want to try to slingshot around this planet and use a speed boost to try to fly myself over here, you can do that. Because since it's a simulation, it's following these rules. So it's super internally consistent. Yeah. And that makes me trust the game a lot. And it just feels like what I do is important.
Yeah. So maybe maybe it's part of what makes it feel so free is that it's built on systems and rules instead of contrivances and very specific kind of
like scripted events
and stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, I guess you could say there are scripted events. Yeah. Because there are things that happen at the same time, you know, all the time, or how you respond to people. Right. But, even if the game doesn't, like, I like what you said about the rules, Nick, and there are points in the game where you may not know what those rules are, but eventually the game does let you know. Yeah. you know what these rules are. And
what the heck is going on? Oh, okay, I get it.
Why is the rock moving? You know, it's... But I love how there's different gravity on every planet. I love how, you know, you have to match the velocity of something in order to do it, and how you angle, and you kind of have to teach yourself that there's no up and down. It's just how you're oriented, and how you can take that with you to everything that you do in the game, and that the world responds, you know, in a believable way, you know, with what you try to do, like. I mean, I know there's points where you get, like, too far away from the solar system. It, like, pulls you back in.
Oh, you're autopilot.
Other than that, there's not, like, invisible walls or anything. Or, like, I remember one time I was on Giants Deep, and it's like, why can't I jetpack? Like, what's going on? And then it's like, oh, the gravity on this planet is insanely strong. I can only hop a little. And then once I knew that, it's like, oh, okay, now I can, you know, learn how to explore it. And so... Yeah, and sometimes autopilot takes you into the sun, but then it teaches you not to rely on it. That, you know, sometimes, you know, if you want to be efficient, especially later on in the game where you know these specific windows that you need to hit, autopilot's not going to do that for you.
Not going to cut it, Yeah. Another thought I'm having with thinking about, like, enacting change in the world and stuff. Something nice about the Outer Wilds is its space. Like when it comes to, like, I want to be able to change things in my environment and not being able to change everything in Outer Wilds, it's space. You're dealing with cosmic forces. These are planets moving around. You're not going to knock one of these things out of orbit. Right. You're not going to, like, change
a little dude in a spaceship.
Little dude in a spaceship, yeah. So, like, all of these things are happening and are indifferent to you, kind of. But you're also not expecting them to be any kind of deferential to you. You're not expecting to be able to change the world around you. Right. So, like, you know, I don't know, just, it's consistent.
Yeah, consistent. That's good. I like that. And we've already talked about several of the consequences in this game. So the second question was, how did you feel about the consequences? Were they natural and believable and made sense, or not?
Some of the deaths are pretty horrific.
I think my least favorite.
You
is
ever
getting
get crushed
in
by
the
sand?
caves. Yeah,
That's-
crushed in the sand cave. Crushing is my least favorite death. In the game.
Man. I don't know if I ever died that way.
You
Gruesome.
probably will.
I probably will if I keep playing it. Yeah, I have more things I got to do down there. But
Yeah.
made sense. The consequences.
Yeah,
It
I
felt
think
right.
so. I think so.
Yeah, like you said, like we get frustrated. Like I said, when you're missing like a time window, or you're have to be pretty precise, and you're dealing with crazy gravity and things like that, and you end up in a black hole. But it's like, oh well, you knew the black hole was there, you knew that you were over it, or
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times I wasn't paying attention to where my trajectory was at as I'm trying to land on a planet and I just fly into the sun.
Yeah.
I just, you just see the flame tendrils around your ship. You're like, what's going on? And it just
No.
It's like, okay.
Oh man.
And by the time you're in the sun's gravity, there's no getting out.
Yeah.
It's over.
Yeah. That's cool. Good.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll move on to my next little thing then.
Please.
Information. We've discussed a few times how much we like the approach that many games take, where they dole out tutorial, exposition, other important information at a rate that's more determined by the player.
Mm-hmm.
In these games, you only receive what you ask for,
Mm-hmm.
or go looking for, and for this reason, it's not often too much, and it's not often too little either, because
Yeah.
you get what you ask for,
Mm-hmm.
and no more than that.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you guys feel that this game handled giving out information to the player? Did it handle that well? Did it do that? Did it do something else that works better? We've already talked a little bit about it, but I want to identify a little bit more.
Yeah. Aaron, do you want to go? You want me to go?
Well, I think, we've talked about a lot of the positives with it, about how it doesn't tell you where to go, about how you get this wonderful, intricate lore, and things that can help you solve puzzles. I think I did have a bit of an issue when the game does become a bit more linear, or it becomes, instead of, explore here, then explore here, when it's like, you have to explore here before you even know what to do here. And I don't know about that other side yet, because I don't know how to get there because I didn't do this other thing. That, several times I'd try to explore an area out of that sequence, where the game hadn't taught me that information yet. And then I just get the moments where I'm banging, my head against the wall, or feeling frustrated. And this later in the game where it's like, I've already kind of gone to the areas I know how to get to. Now there's these kind of elusive areas, and some of them are kind of tied together, and the game doesn't really give you any indication that, that they're tied together. Well, actually, I guess it kind of does, because you do kind of have your rumor thing, and it does.
Yeah, it kind of draws little webs for you, which is...
Yeah, but I don't know. The couple times when I did feel like I had to look something up, and that's mostly because I wanted to finish the game, before we talked about it. I think if I spent more time with it, I could have figured some things out. Most of the time when I looked something up, I was like, okay, I had the right idea with what I was doing. I just needed to do this more precisely, or keep doing that.
Yeah.
But then there were some things where it's like, how the heck was I supposed to figure that out?
Yeah, there were a couple things. There was one thing in that game that I had to look up because I just did not understand it. And yeah.
Was it
just
was
like
it the cave?
No, it was something else actually.
Okay, because the cave.
No, I lucked my way straight through that.
Nice.
I lucked my way into a number of things. Actually, I lucked my way through Dark Bramble once, totally accidentally. It's really funny.
Nice.
Which I appreciate that I could do.
Were you gonna? Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna kind of answer a little bit of your question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think that in general, I love the way the information is doled out in the game. I love that it is your curiosity that carries you from plot point to plot point.
Yeah.
Especially, I love the way this story progresses through you. Like you're uncovering mysteries, and it's your curiosity that's driving you.
Yeah.
I agree that I was frustrated sometimes and had a hard time figuring out some puzzles, but I also took the game pretty slow. And I played it over the series of several months the first time I played it.
Yeah.
And so I had more time. and I, in the end, was really satisfied with the way it doled out information, and I didn't tend to feel overwhelmed. Sometimes looking at like your chart of info and like all of the words, you know, your web of connections can be a little overwhelming. Like, where do I even look in this thing?
Yeah.
But
it starts empty.
But it does.
Nice.
Yeah. And so yeah. But overall, I really like the way it hands out information. I think there's some moments where it struggles a little bit, but yeah.
Yeah.
And from a design element, I think it does some really clever things, like having most of the things that you can interact with or something that are key to either receiving information or solving a puzzle be blue. I think is really cool. It's like something very catching. You could be like, oh, okay, this blue thing, this is important. Something I can do with it. The way that it tells you if there's more information to be found in a certain area and when there's not.
Yeah.
Though that can be deceiving at times because, if it's connected to something separate, it could say, you can see, oh, this area is completed, but then you find something else. It's like, oh, just kidding. This is down here as well, but it's its separate entry. So
that's funny.
But the way that it does lay it out, so you don't, like, even though you see all the words, you can say it's like, okay, like I just need to focus on this. Like, oh, I have this question mark here, so I haven't been to this location, so I can still figure this out. This one has that little orange dot next to it, so I know that I need to go back here, to learn something. And the ones that are, like I said, until you notice exceptions, complete. Yeah, you don't have to worry about it, and so it becomes a lot more manageable to receive that information.
Yeah.
Also, just I thought the alien language in this game was super cool and really creative.
The way it like spirals, and you have to like
how it spiraled out, and like it didn't really matter which tendril you went to; it still continued the conversation, kind of in a linear way, and like it.
Yeah, I got Arrival vibes. The movie Arrival.
Very alien.
Yeah.
And that develops into some cool ways later in the game too. But it's. I thought that was a really cool way. And how you learn, when you're first playing the game, you see the spiral on the wall. You're like, what is that? And then as you play the game, it's like, ooh, lore.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd like to bring it back to the information doling question. Because I only got a minute or two here. But so it's just to kind of sum up what we've talked about here, is that generally when the game allowed you to find out answers to the things that you wanted to find out answers to at the pace that you wanted to, it worked, right? And like we were all pretty satisfied with it.
Yeah.
And it only really became frustrating when we would go looking for things and not be able to find them.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of, I feel like that principle kind of still stands for us generally, at least for me, is that like I want the game to give me the information as I'm asking for it or as I go looking for it,
Yeah.
And like, and I know that like you can't really expect it to be perfect, and sometimes you do have to just like struggle through it, in order to figure things out. That's the way life is too. And I don't know that it's possible to protect any human mind from its ability to confuse itself.
Yeah.
And so like, but no, that was cool. I like that. I'm glad that we had that conversation about information.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'll just say too. As I thought, there were some times I think you talked about, Nick. You just like you accidentally do something in the game. I remember it's like accidentally doing something in the game that was supposed to kind of be this process of how to get to it, and then later find the thing that explained how to do it, and I was like, oh, that's how I did that. Okay.
How did I
didn't even realize I did that thing, but I guess I did that.
That's really funny. Yeah, because the rules are always the same. It's not like some games you play where it's like, all right, now that you know how to do this thing, you can use that item. It's like, no, if you have the item, even if you don't know how to use it, you can accidentally solve the puzzle.
Yeah.
Really like.
Yeah, that's cool. Awesome. Well, that's all the time for my segment.
Okay.
But thanks, guys. Thanks for answering my questions. I enjoyed reviewing some of the things that we've talked about before, and seeing how this game measured up, and seeing how those principles.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Good. Yeah.
Yeah, good. I'm glad you liked it. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Zach.
Yeah.
I suppose that concludes our discussion portion.
Oh, wow. That flew by.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
So, I guess it's wrap-up time.
Oh, boy.
Thanks.
I mean, I guess it was a little shorter. I don't know. Does anyone have like any final thoughts about Outer Wilds? Or
I loved
it.
This game. Play this game. I'm grateful that you guys have taken the time to play it. This game is very special to me. I like it a lot, and I've enjoyed discussing these things about it. Kudos to the people at Mobius Digital who made it. This started out as a guy's thesis for his college or whatever.
Really?
And turned into this game. No Clip has a wonderful documentary all about how it was made.
Wow.
That I highly recommend. But yeah, his name's Alex Beecham. And I think it was his sister who like did all the writing for the game and stuff like that. It was a cool little indie group of friends and stuff. So
That's so cool.
So I don't know. Yeah, it's awesome. It's good. I like this game. I like it a lot.
Just the science and the philosophy that just comes up in the stories and things. It's really deep and intricate. It's not just surface level, cheats that you often see in games. So I really appreciated that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was smart. Yeah.
Smart game.
Kind of profound, too.
Yeah. Like I was following some Reddit threads about the game, and there's just so many different ideas and interpretations and like things about it. It's like, wow, like it's really cool.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I love it. It feels good to play. The music is great. The story is so compelling, and the mechanics and the whole experience is so cohesive.
Mm-hmm.
It's all tied in together. Everything you do is relevant to the plot and everything. It's amazing.
Yeah. It's wonderful.
So that's my closing thoughts on the thing. It's great.
Yeah.
It's incredibly well made.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, awesome. Thank you guys for talking.
Yeah.
And thanks again for listening to those who have been. This has been our game highlight episode. Next month we'll be having another highlight episode hosted by Aaron. Aaron, do you want to tell us a little bit about what we're going to be talking about for that one?
Yes. So this next month we will be playing Supergiant's latest action roguelike, Hades, which I'm super excited about. I've been playing this game on and off for the past few months, and it's just it's kind of, I think we mentioned before, it's deceptively complex. It's I guess we mentioned that before the podcast. But you think that it's just this kind of game where you try to beat these levels of enemies over and over again. But it's got some really interesting stuff with the story and how you interact with the characters, how it's another game that kind of has a loop, though it's more determined on you than a sun exploding. And just, Supergiant with its game design, with its art style, with its music, always top notch. So I'm really looking forward for you guys playing that and for us to be able to discuss it.
Yeah,
Me too. That'll be fun.
that'll be good. Well, wonderful. Next time we'll be back to our regular program. Thank you again for listening in. This has been Games by Design.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.